Hello boys and girls, how are we today? Good? Groovy. Today I'm going to talk to you about something that we all need to learn to do, and I'm going to try and talk about this briefly. It's inside the mind of a narcissist and trying to figure out why narcissists do what it is that they do. One of the questions that I got asked just yesterday by a client, and I didn't have an answer for it, and that bothered me, was in her case, the narcissist in her life would shout at her in front of people, particularly in work. And I thought, good Lord, I've heard of that before. I've seen that before. Narcissists only shouting, but at home and in their personal life, the narcissist is quite quiet and not aggressive. The opposite, quite passive. But in public, they shout at the person. And the other recurrent theme was, they would only ever tell me they love me via email. They'd never tell me face to face. They'd never look into my eyes and tell me. They would hyper idealize me and send me long emails talking about how wonderful I am. So I said, okay. And this lady asked me, why does he shout at me in public? And I said, I have to tell you, I don't know. And I said, but let's, you and I, think about this. Let's think in terms of what we know about narcissism or any abusive personality type. So general abusive personality types, narcissists, antisocial personality disorder, and borderline, malignant, nasty borderlines, not benign borderlines. And also, we have to factor in as well now, obsessive compulsive disorder. What I've recently found, because somebody posted a YouTube comment that said, have you looked into obsessive compulsive disorder and its relation to domestic violence? And I was like, no, I haven't. Went and looked. So a lot of people I'm talking to, they're actually describing this cluster. Other researchers have called it the dark triad, other researchers call it the dark tetrad. It's like this nasty, bullying, dark character. So I said, let's me and you explore this. Why would they shout at you? What do we know about what narcissists do, whether they be covert or overt? Well, number one, they're masters of the propaganda campaign, and they really care about their image. That's the definition of, or one of the major definitions for narcissism that would mean the person isn't just a malignant borderline or antisocial personality disorder, otherwise known as, formerly known as psychopath. They care about their image. They do. They're very invested in it. So if you then assume that everything that they do is a play, an act, theatre, you then have to say, what's the role they're playing? Who's the audience, and what is it they are seeking to convey in this little role play that they're going through? The second thing that we know is there is always an agenda, which ties into number one, what I just said with number one. They're always acting, they're obsessed with their image, and there is an agenda. What agenda is served by them shouting at you? What effect did it have? They're all about effect. How do I look? How's this looking to other people? These are people who typically are obsessed with social media, obsessed with Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. They're constantly changing their profile pictures. They're constantly uploading pictures of themselves to convey an image in a controlled format of who they are and what they're about. So what's the agenda? And then the third, rather more nasty thing and petty thing that I thought was, well, maybe it's as simple as a power trip. It's just to make themselves feel manly or like a powerful woman. Because I've had a couple of girls do this to me. As I checked the files, I was like, have I had a girl do this to me where in a certain context they've either snapped at me in front of people or deliberately sought to humiliate me in front of people or shouted at me? And the answer was, as I went through the files, yes, there was 2 occasions. On both of those occasions, one of the elements at play was a power trip, was the desire to look strong. These are girls, both of these girls had similar issues. As it happens, they're both British-born Chinese, little bit of a chip on their shoulder. Both had fathers who abandoned them. Both of them had elements of borderline, strong elements of narcissism, and also this obsessive compulsive disorder, which turns them into control freaks. They don't look like control freaks. They don't act like it. No, they're free and easy. They're almost like hippies. Life just is like, whatever, man. Don't be so controlling. And they're really dismissive of people who are jealous. Like, wow, you're so... At the same time, behind closed doors, they're super jealous, super controlling, and super insecure. And in both of those occasions that I experienced that, there was an audience. They did it in front of people that they had respect for. So there is that element there as well. It's hard for people who are empathic and who have people pleaser syndrome and who are broken in not that we're broken, but you know, you have some of the software is corrupted so that you're obsessed with making other people happy. You've got that people pleaser running. You've got that porous ego boundaries running. You just want to make everybody happy. You are the peacekeeper, the fixer, the caretaker, the balancer. Let's bring balance to everything that's going on. You want to make people happy, and you're terrified of causing disappointment, negative emotions in other people, which then makes you terrified of confrontation, so on and so forth. You're double vulnerable. One, because you're meat to a narcissist, because they recognize in you that weakness and they will exploit it without end. Why without end? Because there are no moral boundaries with a narcissist, especially if they're comorbid with antisocial personality disorder. I've talked on this channel before about a situation where a young chap, a friend of mine, was dying of cancer. And I believe that his illness was directly related to the way in which his father treated him. His father is a well-known, not gangster, but somewhere between a gangster and a businessman in the Liverpool area, who is a total bully. Obsessive compulsive disorder, dark tetrad, sadist, Machiavellian, antisocial personality disorder, borderline, because he was super insecure and would fly into rages about people who didn't respect him enough, and a total fucking narcissist. And I remember watching as his young son, was dying of a very rare form of cancer, and sitting there and thinking, when is he going to stop? When is he going to stop pushing his son? When is he going to stop gaming his son? When is he going to stop emotionally? He's dying. Like, if you were some evil, crazed, sadistic lunatic, for those of us who have a little bit of empathy and do have a morality, you think, yeah, okay, you're bonkers, you've been hurt. If you like torturing animals and torturing people, it's because blah, 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 you've got psychological problems. Okay, we can understand, but surely there's a limit. Surely there's a point at which you go, okay, enough is enough, I should really stop now. And in this case, there wasn't. And it terrified me to see that a normal guy who's not in prison, who is allowed to walk freely in the world, would have no moral boundary where he would say enough is enough. My son is dying, he has weeks left. I will tell him I love him. I will tell him that I accept him for what he is and for who he is, and he couldn't do it. And I could feel when I was, this is heavy stuff. We're in a hospice and I'm meeting this guy across his dying son's bed, and I can feel his stubbornness and his stiffness, that he will not show his son true compassion, that he can't do it, he can't access it for whatever reason. So there is no moral boundary. They will break you. They will break you, and they will walk away, and they will sleep like babies at night. Often. It's all a sliding scale, it's all a spectrum. That doesn't mean that, you know, everybody is that bad. There are people out there who will register positive for narcissism, who do feel guilt, and that guilt can make them worse. One of the series, I'd been wanting to watch it for ages, but I'm sort of halfway through it now, is The Tudors, and I'm watching King Henry VIII, you know, play out his reign. There's a narcissist and a psychopath. I know you guys are stuck on the word psychopath, so I have to use it, and social personality disorder. So people sent me in saying, I know you don't like that word. It's not that I don't like the word, it's that I try and be scientific, and it's outdated. It's not used anymore, so whatever. And also a control freak, and somebody who was totally corrupted by his own power. And he got fatter and fatter and fatter, and sicker and sicker and sicker. And I think that part of that is guilt, is the desire to suppress the negative emotions and the feelings of guilt, so they do things that will allow them to regulate, you know, like over drinking and overeating. I think that's one of the things that actually did Henry VIII in, was food and alcohol. He drank and ate himself to death as he got bigger and bigger. If you're interested in history, you can go to the Tower of London, and you can see like the armour for the jockeys. They weren't called jockeys. The guys who went into battle on horses, and they're tiny little pieces of armour. They're like children's armour for men. So they picked guys who were tiny, and generally people were less nourished there, and so they were smaller. And then you see King Henry's armour, and it was huge. it was huge. Like, this guy was very obese. The character Robert Baratheon, Game of Thrones, and the whole joke about needing to stretch his armour for his belly, I think is based on King Henry VIII's massive gut-like armour, which, as I say, is an element of the guilt that some people feel, I think. So when we're trying to get inside the mind of a narcissist, what I need you guys to start doing more, because the recurrent theme with clients is, I need you to be cunning. There is a phrase that they use in Cantonese when they want to describe gangsters, young men who are gangsters. They call them guwak tsai, which means cunning boys. Street smart. They know what is going on. The map matches the territory. They know how people think and they can work that. It's not natural for empaths to do that. It's not natural for people pleaser syndrome sufferers to do that. But I need you to learn. It's not enough that you be loving, trusting, vulnerable, and, you know, I keep hearing customers say, oh, but I have my spiritual beliefs, I trust in the universe. If I treat people well, they will treat me well. It's nonsense, guys and girls, and you can't just go with the flow and hope for the best and imagine that everything is going to work out. You will be eaten by sharks. There are sharks out there. Not all people are like that. You know, there's plenty of good people out there as well, but I want people to start becoming a little bit tougher, a little bit more cunning, and realizing that there's a game being played here that's alien to your thinking, and I want you to learn to be able to think that way so you can establish what a narcissist is doing. The reason why, and I was this, a purely empathic, pushover, people pleaser, will be demolished by a truly narcissistic personality, is because this individual doesn't know what the fuck this individual is doing. It's like boxing, but it's like day 2 of boxing for me against somebody who's been at it for 18 years. You know, I don't even know the rules. I don't even know how to win, because I have no idea what the rules of this game are. This person knows the rules, they've done this before, they've played it time and again, and they will demolish you unless you can start learning to think in the same way that they do. That scratching noise is the noise of a dog. A dog who might be part wolf. Look, Max. Are you a wolf? Yes. I must take this wolf for a walk. So, boys and girls, please be careful out there. Yes, Max, I will take you now. And be aware that not everything is as it seems, and that this neurotic naivety, which we've identified as a people pleaser trait, is extremely dangerous. It's not something, oh, I'm a bit naive, never mind. No, the naivety is the opening and the leverage for them to get to you. Final point. Don't get depressed about this stuff. Take it in your stride, have a sense of humour. They're not devils, they're just human beings. They can be defeated, but also remember that there is no moral boundary, so the nastiness doesn't come with a limit. They will do what they do like machines until you're crushed, and then they'll go and find somebody else. And they might feel some guilt, or they might not feel some guilt. They might be conscious, they might not be conscious. We can sit here and philosophize about that all day. What difference does it make? Your life has been destroyed, and that's not a good end result. So be cunning, be careful, and do start learning to think how they think. What I said to you in the beginning is, everything is a performance. They're obsessed with how they look. So when you're trying to figure out a narcissist behavior, go, who are they performing to? Where's the audience, and what's the purpose? That's the second thing. What's the agenda? If you're screaming at me in front of people, what are you trying to do? If this is a professional context and you're the main teacher and I'm the assistant instructor, this is something I've experienced in the martial arts world now that I think about it, and you start bullying me in front of the class, oh, maybe that's because you think the class is listening to me more than you. The third thing is, remember, sometimes it's just a simple power play. They just want to dominate you to make themselves look cool and powerful and make you look weak. And now, in protest, it eats my socks. I must tend to the wolf. Thank you very much for your time and your attention, ladies and gents. Be careful, take care of yourselves, and I will speak to you again soon. Thank you.